lives. We need family members. You have to be socially connected. Psychologists tell you, or psychotherapists, if you want to get rid of loneliness, reduce loneliness, you have to, follow your hobbies, sports, traveling, walk in the nature, meditation, yoga. All these things are good. Your job, your career, serving the community, these are good things. But the most important thing is to have good relationship with your parents, with your mother and with your father, with your family members. The most important thing is to reach out to the community members. In one of my trips at one of the airports in the nation here, I went to the information desk at the airport and I noticed that two couples are sitting there. They are well in their 90s. They could hardly speak, let alone move. Very elderly. And they are volunteering their time. So I spoke with a lady who's very old. I said to her, "Ma'am, what are you volunteering or you are working here?" She said, "No, I'm volunteering. It's better than staying at home and getting lonely and getting bored. I'm helping people here." See, when you volunteer, spend time, even with strangers, chatting with strangers will reduce loneliness, the feeling of loneliness, because you are connected. Now let's go to the issue of marriage. Why, in a marriage, people feel lonely? Why? And by the way, this type of loneliness, this type of alienation and isolation that someone feels while he's married is worse than any type of loneliness when you are lonely in the marriage. Sometimes a person is a divorcee, sometimes is a single, sometimes does not have a wife, does not have family. It is understood why he's lonely or she's lonely. But when someone has a wife and children, and then yet that person is suffering from loneliness, this is the worst type of suffering. So why people feel lonely in a marriage? I'll mention 2 or 3 reasons, my friends. One of them is too much expectation of the marriage. When you expect everything out of that marriage, when you are codependent on your spouse, you expect your spouse to be your entertainer, your therapist, your breadwinner, your friend, your doctor, your servant, from A to Z. When you are codependent on someone, and that person cannot live up to his or her responsibilities, you feel deserted. You feel alone, you feel neglected, you feel no one is paying attention to you. So do not try to be independent. Yes, marriage is about cooperation, marriage is about helping each other, but at the end of the day, you have to be independent. This is why I encourage our women in the West. Marriage in the West is different from the marriage in the East. In the East, in a village back home, someone can marry a lady at the age of 13, 14, 15 without education, without money, without any background, and he treats her as a servant. And she is completely dependent on him. She cannot find her way in this life. She cannot walk a few steps without his help, without his control, without his guidance. But here it's different. Here our daughters, we have to encourage them to study. We have to encourage them to get a job. Yes, it is true that the husband is a breadwinner. It's true. It is his moral and religious responsibility to take care of his family, financial care of his family, moral care of his family. But also, it is good for the wife's dignity and honor and independence to generate her own money. If she does not have her own money, no matter how generous her husband is, she is enslaved to him. She is in need to him. And your Imam and my Imam, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam, says, Once you need a person, any type of need, physical, emotional, mental, you are enslaved to that person. احتج إلى من شئت تكن أسيرة. When you are in need to a person, you become his captive. He controls you. So it's good for women to work, to generate their own money, to feel that this is my money, I can spend it the way I like. Nobody is controlling me. So when you have too much expectation of marriage, that will contribute into the feeling of loneliness. God says, do not depend on anyone except me. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't consider your spouse to be one-man show. Don't. You have to do your work. You have to have self-value, self-esteem, and self-respect. And try to help yourself. Do not be dependent on anyone in this life. On anyone. Neither on your parents, nor on your spouse, nor your doctor, nor your lawyer, nor a close friend. Put your full trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is the only one who's not going to let you down. God is the only one who's not going to turn his face away from you. Any of those people might desert you any minute. Any minute. They let you down. They let you down because they are weak. They themselves need help. God says at the time of death, when someone is struggling with death, his family are going to call كلا إذا بلغت التراقي وقيل من راق وظن أنه الفراق والتفت الساق بالساق إلى ربك يومئذ المساق. They're going to call the ambulance 911. Oh doctor, oh surgeon, oh nurse, save his life. But God says the surgeon and the doctor cannot save his own life, let alone your life. He cannot. God says, فَلَوْلَا إِن كُنْتُمْ غَيْرَ مَدِينِينَ تَرْجِعُونَهَا إِن كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. If you are not yourself who are trying to save this dead person, if you are not yourself are the most wanted, you would have been able to save him. But the problem, you are also wanted. You're going to die. The person who does not die can save him. But the person who's going to die too cannot save a dying person. Depend on God and also your talent, your potential. I've seen many people, my friends, they were too afraid, too lonely, too anxious. They were depressed. They lacked self-confidence. But they were combating that through themselves, not chemical medication, through themselves. I know some of them, they stayed nights in the desert. They camped alone in the desert. Some of them went and stayed alone in the mountains. This is how they were fighting loneliness. Two stories from my community. The story of a lady who depended on her husband from A to Z. Everything he would do for her. She did not learn language. She did not drive. She did not know her way. From A to Z, everything has to be done by her husband. Unfortunately, her husband died. This lady, her life was completely ruined. She lost her children. She lost her future. She lost her health. When you look at her, she looks 50 years older. She didn't know how to care about her own self, how to feed herself, how to survive. Another story from an Afghan community, Afghan family. Again, the husband died when his wife was young and she had 5 young children. Today, those 5 children after 50 or 60 years are heroes in their communities. She was able to raise them, depending on God. She did not depend on her husband.
Subhanallah.
She depended on God and herself. They proposed to her. She didn't remarry. She said, I have an important task. I have children. I have amana, trust. I have to raise them. And she encouraged them. She went after them. She inspired them. She made them heroes. She made them successful. Many of them went to Ivy League universities. Some of those single parents are heroes. Single parents, we have to admire them. We have to respect them. Don't look down at them. There are many single parents in our communities. Some mothers or some fathers. Many of them are mothers. They handled their family very well. They did not lose themselves. They didn't lose their kids. They put their faith in God. And they worked very hard. And they were able to survive despite these difficult circumstances. You have to salute those people. People who are single parents in your community, single mothers, with kids, with little kids who are struggling, you have to salute them. You have to thank them. You have to admire them. You have to encourage them. Put your trust in God. You are not alone. We think sometimes we are alone. This feeling of loneliness is from Satan. Satan wants to weaken you, to defeat you. But when you know God is watching. When the Israelites were leaving Egypt, going to Palestine, they were chased by Pharaoh. The community said to their prophet Musa alayhi salam, they said, Pharaoh and his huge army, mighty army are chasing us. What did he say? He said only one sentence. قَالَ كَلَّا إِنَّ مَعِي رَبِّي سَيَهْدِينِ. Don't worry, nay, I don't care about Pharaoh and his army. I have my Lord with me. I have my Lord with me. قَالَ كَلَّا إِنَّ مَعِي رَبِّي. My Lord is with me. He's protecting me. He's guiding me. And I'm going to be victorious. You have to have self-confidence. Teach yourself. Why do we do 5 daily prayers? Why do we have supplications and du'as, my friends? These supplications are important. Don't forget this book. This is your manual. This is your roadmap. Read it in your own language. If you don't understand Arabic, there are translations into different languages. Read this book. This is a source of inspiration. The dua after the salat, take your time. Once you conclude the salat, don't run away. Spend a few more minutes. We have ta'qibat salat. After every salat, we have a specific du'as, which is specifically intended to empower you, inspire you, give you energy. Try to reflect upon. One of them is Dua al-Sabah, the supplication of morning, by Imam Ali alayhi salatu wassalam.